magical chocolate, holotropic breathwork, grounding, earthing, vortexes, crystals. Yeah, this podcast has all of that and a whole lot more in it. It's a podcast episode that I recorded with my friend Anahata from Sedona, Arizona. You're about to take a dive into the woo. But first, this podcast is actually brought to you by something that is sitting in front of me right now. I have my pants pulled down while I am recording this commercial, and I have my pants pulled down in front of this light. It is called a Juve light. It produces infrared rays that, based on this concept of what is called photobiomodulation, increase testosterone levels. Now, if you're a woman and you don't have something to dangle in front of the light, well, it's also wonderful for collagen and for skin health. I actually put one behind me and I take my shirt off too. Basically, I don't wear any clothes when I'm working, and I shine it on my skin, and it's great for the back. It's wonderful for scars. It's wonderful to produce almost like a full body Viagra effect because it releases a bunch of nitric oxide. These Juve lights are something I even use to light up my office at night to create more of a firelight effect rather than a sleep inhibiting bright blue light effect. Well, you get a big fat discount over at Juve, a $25 discount on anything from Juve. You just go to bengreenfieldfitness.com/JOOVV. Now, I own the Max. That's the one I like, but they make smaller versions too, even little ones you can put in your suitcase. The Juve. Check out bengreenfieldfitness.com/JOOVV and use code BEN25 on your Juve. Also, speaking of sleep, there is a podcast called A Better Night's Sleep. A Better Night's Sleep. And all it is it's a podcast chock full of tips from the experts on the best bedtime routines. You learn about sleep disorders and nightmares and how infants and children and teens can get better rest. It's hosted by a doc named Dr. Julie Kinn. She's a research psychologist at the Defense Health Agency. And in every episode, she hosts military sleep experts, like the guy who directs the sleep lab at Fort Carson, Colonel Brian Robertson from the Walter Reed Army Medical Center. They answer listener questions. They explain how sleep treatments work. They suggest how to change your sleep habits. Pretty much everything is designed to not only make the military sleep better, because Lord knows they have a hard time sleeping with everything they do, but to help you sleep better using these advanced tactics that the military is using. It's pretty dang cool, and it's one of my fave new podcasts, A Better Night's Sleep podcast. You can find it pretty much wherever you listen to podcasts. Just search for it. A Better Night's Sleep would be what you'd want to search for. And that's it. I mean, so easy to find. A Better Night's Sleep. Wherever you want to listen to a podcast, you can find it, and you can now go out and get yourself a better night's sleep using the magic of podcasting. Isn't that cool? In this episode of the Ben Greenfield Fitness Show,
if it's not in the right dose, if it's not the right time, if it's not for the right ailment, if you're going for the wrong reason, or it's not held in the right container, then it will become a poison, even if it has medicinal qualities. I started meditating, and I was cleansing and detoxing and fasting and doing breath work. My whole physical, energetic, emotional, and spiritual body shifted completely. I explain it like using a broom to kind of sweep out the basement of stuff that we just don't want to deal with. Those traumas, insecurities.
He's an expert in human performance and nutrition. Voted America's top personal trainer and one of the globe's most influential people in health and fitness. His show provides you with everything you need to optimize physical and mental performance. He is Ben Greenfield.
Power, speed, mobility, balance. Whatever it is for you, that's the natural movement. Get out there. When you look at all the studies done, studies that have shown the greatest efficacy.
All the information you need in one place, right here, right now, on the Ben Greenfield Fitness Podcast.
Hey folks, it's Ben Greenfield, and it's been about 4 months since I went to, for the first time in my life, Sedona, Arizona. Everybody was telling me, you got to go to Sedona, go do some sound healing, go meet with some of the crazy folks over there who are forward thinkers, especially in the realm of spirituality and spiritual healing, and also go experience the magical energy that is in that place. So finally, I went to Sedona, and I knew that when I went to Sedona, there were a few things that I had to do. I had to go to a place that my friend highly recommended to me called Chocolatry. Crazy good restaurant there, chock full of just what it sounds like mostly chocolate-infused superfoods. I was also told I had to go see this dude named Porongai and go do he has this crazy vibrating sound table and plays didgeridoo and gongs and heals you with sound frequencies as you lay on his table. I stayed out at my friend Aubrey Marcus's Spirit Ranch out there, peaceful place out in the middle of nowhere. And I also met with someone who actually Aubrey had really recommended to me to meet with for an energy healing, an emotional release session. Her name is Anahata Ananda. That's Anahata, Anahata. And so I drove into Sedona, pulled up in front of Anahata's house in my little rental car. It was the first stop I made when I got into Sedona. And I went into her house, and what ensued was a couple of hours of Anahata just basically taking a deep, deep dive into what I really desired in life, who I truly was, who I truly wanted to be in terms of my authentic self and being able to express that to the world in a really meaningful way that helped people out. And I was so excited after those couple hours. I remember this, Anahata. I rushed out to the hills back behind your house, and I found this little hiking trail, and I actually shot a video. And it was like a Facebook Live video. I put this out on Facebook. You guys can watch it right now. I'm going to put it in the show notes. I'll tell you how to get to the show notes in a second. But I shot this video in which I took a deep dive into and talked about all the things that I experienced while working with Anahata. And you can go watch that video over at bengreenfieldfitness.com/Anahata, Anahata, Anahata. Who is Anahata? She's the founder of something called Shamangelic Healing. It's based in Sedona, Arizona, like I mentioned. Her website is shamangelichealing.com, as in like a shaman angel, shamangelichealing.com. She does spirituality and energy healing, self-empowerment, emotional release, couple and family work, visualization techniques, breath work, a lot of things we're going to talk about today. And she's an incredibly nice person, described as someone who blends the compassion and tenderness of an angel and the wisdom and strength of a shaman. So there you have it, Shamangelic. See what she did there? So, Anahata, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ben. What a beautiful introduction, and it's good to connect with you again. We certainly did have like a deep dive into soul awakening, and it was such a pleasure to introduce you to just kind of go outside of the box to kind of explore emotion and energy and soul awakening and emotional clearing. And it was so powerful having you here because you were so willing to feel it, to address, where things are going great in your life and where they're not, and what could be improved, and where there's opportunities to shine, to be more balanced. And it was just an epic journey. And I love working with somebody like you who's open and willing, to do the work and to explore and to experience. So I'm so grateful for our time together, and that you were open-minded enough to try some, wacky, far-out Sedona experience, which is not, a mainstream, offering. Yeah,
you're talking to a guy who does, coffee enemas and Ironman triathlon. So I'm all about approaching the edgy and challenging myself. I think I cried at your house too. I did some crying.
Yeah. So, it was really tender and really profound and deep. And so,
yes. Before we talk more about what you do, what's up with Sedona? Like it's this place that people go to, and I never really realized until I went there. I've been to some places that seem to have a strong spiritual energy. Like there's this springs near my house that's like a hot springs, and you go there and it's like this healing energy, and you feel amazing when you get out of the hot springs, and it's an ancient Native American kind of like a holy location. And when I go to Sedona, I get the same feeling. And there's a lot of, folks there who are sound healers, a lot of, it's kind of hippie, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
why is Sedona such a center for that type of thing? Did something happen thousands of years ago in that particular plot of land in Sedona? Or is it just that, they put up that chocolate tree restaurant and all the cool hippies moved there? Or what happened?
Right. Great question. Sedona is absolutely just a mecca for healing energy, spiritual awakening. There's a vast number of different modalities accessible here. But that's because they're really rallying around the potency of the land. When you're in a hot springs, that is energy spiraling up in the form of water levitating. A spring is really water levitating out of the ground, whether it's a hot spring or a cold spring. And all of the major temples, in various religions, most of them are built around springs. Because they know that those are holy waters that are levitating out of the earth. So first of all, we have lots of springs here in Sedona, cold springs. But the other thing that we have that is so unique here are the Sedona vortexes. Now, there are vortexes, around the planet, which is just spiraling electrical current energy, spiraling out of the Earth's crust. That's happening a lot of places in the world. What's unique about Sedona is that we haven't built over top of it. Let's say there's vortexes in Europe, but it's built over with cities and churches and buildings. And so this is raw land here. It's also very old land. So, the mountain that you did your recording right behind my house, the top of that mountain's a couple 100 million years old. So the soil in this land has crystals in it, and it also has high concentrations of minerals, and those amplify electricity. So we have hundreds and hundreds of vortexes in Sedona that are also being amplified by crystal veins, minerals in the soil, and also springs, which all amplify electrical current. So what happens is we're the same thing, made of minerals, water moving through, or electrical current moving through water and minerals, our bones and all of the fluid. And so when you put our body on top of Earth's body with all of that electrical current moving through it, it starts moving energy in the body, whether you realize it or not.
Yeah.
And so people come here to heal. They come here to write. They come here to awaken. They come here to connect spiritually. And Sedona is like a whole nother healing energy that I get to co-create with. So it's like working with another co-facilitator because Sedona, kind of primes people to go deeper because the energy is already pushing on those things that need to release, or expanding where there's maybe creativity or spirituality. It'll expand that. The veil between this world and the spiritual or the cosmic world, or whatever you want to call that, the divine, the universe. It's very thin here, so it's easy to access other dimensions here. And this it also is going to bring up things that are out of balance too.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. But this idea of a vortex, I ran into this way back when I interviewed this guy about structured water, Dr. Gerald Pollack from University of Washington. And he goes into this idea that you can stir water, or even use a water filter that has a vortex inside it. And what that does is it actually creates what are called hydrophilic surfaces on the water. And so a vortex is like this mechanical perturbation. It's like an agitation, and it builds up these little air bubbles in the water, and this increases the electrical potential of the water, increases the voltage of the water. We see the same thing with grounding. He actually talked about this a little bit when he was on my show, that the simple act of placing the soles of your feet on the ground allows you to absorb negative electrons from the earth, because the earth has a greater negative charge than your body. And when you talk about the minerals and the crystals that are in Sedona, and the fact that Sedona is considered to be a vortex where there are actually spirals of air and spirals of energy in different regions. It's very similar to the discussion that I had with him, and similar to the way I live my life here at home. Right, I sleep on crystals, right? I've got a biomat with amethyst and tourmaline crystals, and I structure my water, and I go outside barefoot. But when I go to Sedona, it's almost like all that's done for me. Like it's just, it's
I mean,
present
I
already.
live in that. And that's why I based my healing center here very strategically, because it really helps prime people to go deep, to feel, because it amplifies emotions that we kind of hold at bay. And anything that's out of balance, anything that's kind of stuck, Sedona is going to try to bring that to the surface a little bit, to help work through it. And so it's perfect co-facilitator and location, because sacred destinations, there is a power and an energy to certain places, on the planet, negatively or positively, what's happened on the land, what the frequency of the people are, and the power of the land. It's very vital. And so that just kind of is this powerful support for people that are, maybe they're just stuck. Maybe they're just, wanting to expand. Maybe they're just curious, or maybe they're going through a big life change. All of those reasons, people that are on any part of their path, whether they've just had a loss or they're about to have, a new baby or get married or start a new business or write a book. Either way, whether it's the clearing or, the expansion work, both are really powerful here because it's just amplified by the energy of Sedona.
Yeah, it is. It is very interesting. And you're talking about rocks and crystals, and I know that those seem to be a pretty big theme there in Sedona as well. Is it just this basic concept of a vortex that makes the rocks and the crystals different in Sedona, or why does Sedona seem like a place where rocks and crystals and all these crystal shops are so prevalent?
Because like you were saying, hey, there's this technology that we can leverage with spiraling energy. People that are living here in Sedona and working here realize, wow, crystals do amplify energy. And different types of crystals have different functions. Some are more for clearing. Like I too, in my healing room, I have a amethyst crystal biomat as well. And specifically, amethyst has certain qualities which is different than rose quartz, which is different than crystal quartz. And so, since Sedona is kind of a mecca for spiritual awakening and core healing, people in that field know that crystals are fabulous amplifiers and conduits for different intentions, for healing, for awakening, for relaxation, for grounding, for spiritual expansion. And so it's a very common tool in this industry to be used. We don't mine here in Sedona for crystals. They're actually, crystal quartz primarily is in the soil, and there's lots of crystal geodes here, but we don't mine anything from the soil here. Because that amplifies all the energy, and we want to leave it put. We want to leave it where it is.
Wait, what do you mean you don't mine? Like where are all the rocks and crystals coming that are in all the shops there?
Well, those come from all around the world because different crystals are found in different locations. Because amethyst crystal needs a certain format in order to form. A certain geological arrangement in order to create crystals, and so. Like in Brazil, certain geothermal activity will create really, large crystals in that area of a certain type. And so we actually have crystals all around the world in different types growing in certain areas. And so those countries or those states that do mine then will produce all of those different crystals. And so these are going to be imported from all kinds of places around the world to find some of the best clear crystals from where they're grown.
And you can actually go to one of these places where there's really intense spiritual energy, these intense energy spirals. They call them a vortex. And so is there like a map of different vortices that are around Sedona or?
Yeah, they're all over the place. There's a map for some of the major ones, but being in Sedona, you're in it. And then, of course, there's secret kind of places on the land. There's caves. There's an ancient medicine wheel. There's cliff dwellings, Native American cliff dwellings back here because this was Native American land. Pottery shards, and the canyons themselves are just powerful temples of, clear conduits for relaxation, for support, grounding your body, just allowing the earth to hold you, this is a wonderful place to connect with nature, because the vortexes are happening just all over the place. Plus, the beauty of the red rocks and the crystals in the soil. It's a wonderful place to ground, to rest, to heal, to awaken. So, yeah, and there's lots of people like myself and others that take people out on sacred journeys on the land to sacred destinations, so that you can sit in a cave, so that you can sit in an ancient cliff dwelling, or you can, hike to an epic, amazing epic view, and kind of drop into the beauty here as well.
I love it. How'd you find Sedona? Like, what's your story?
It just called me, like a lot of people. It's not on the map. It's not on the map. It's not on the map. And all of a sudden it's on the map. And so I came here years ago to visit a friend, and I fell in love with it. And I could feel the energy, because I've been doing retreats around the world to sacred destinations for almost 2 decades. And so I'm interested in locations that have a powerful energy, whether it's taking people to Peru or to Bali or to Hawaii, or here in Sedona. It became one of my favorite spots to travel to and bring people to deepen their experience. And then, years after living in California and running my business from there, I was like, I think I'm just going to move to Sedona and build a whole healing practice here full time.
So in terms of what you were doing before you came to Sedona, I mean, how does one actually become, as you say, shamangelic? I mean, like were you just like a barista at a coffee shop one day and decided to go off and become a shaman, or leading up to when you went to Sedona, there must have been something that where you learned what you're able to do now, because you do a lot of stuff that we'll get a chance to talk about here in a second.
Yeah. I was in mainstream everything. I was in corporate. I was, really not on my spiritual path. I was fit and healthy and into nutrition and all of that, but my soul wasn't happy, and I really wasn't doing what I'm meant to do. I was great at what I did, but it wasn't soulful. And there was a lot of unhealed stuff from childhood and life experiences that were just kind of lingering under the surface, Ben, where it was just like, I'm not thriving, I'm not happy. And I'm not feeling nourished at a deep soul level. And, so I was going through a divorce at the time. And, that was a big part of my awakening was just, not being in an unhappy marriage, and things weren't fantastic, and kind of looking at, well, what can I change? What can I do differently? What is going on inside of me? Because it's not, it's not ever about what he or she or the other is doing or not doing. There comes a time where the soul wants to wake up, and mediocrity or things that aren't in alignment or our core wounds are just saying, hey, if you really want happiness sustained and thriving, you've got to do your work. You've got to heal. You've got to release. You've got to come back into who you really are meant to be. And so it was that dark night of the soul. And I wasn't going to, years and years ago, I had tried different kinds of counseling work, and I'm like, this is just not getting me anywhere. This is not addressing the core issues at all. So I wasn't inclined to go into traditional modalities. And so a friend of mine recommended a shaman in LA. I was living in Orange County at the time, in Laguna Beach. And I'm like, shit, I'm motivated to try something else. Kind of, like you were open-minded and to try something else. And he went so deep. And Ben, I had no idea that there was so much rage and grief and disappointment in my body, that was sabotaging other things in my life. And it's not like there were huge traumas that happened as a kid, it was just, all the disappointments and breakups and, some bummer shit that happened. It's all, part of life, but it hadn't ever resolved. A lot of those pains, a lot of those imprints hadn't really ever healed or had the right support to actually be transmuted and evolved so that I could come back to center again, or a lot of the sadness and grief we in our society, it's oppressed. Oh, don't feel, don't cry, don't talk about it, just move on, stiff upper lip, get back in the game. And that's all great, except that doesn't allow things to actually heal. Sometimes when you fall off, you have to get back up, which is fine. You definitely need to get back up, but there's also, I need to make sure that this wound is healed. Otherwise, this wound is going to continue to sabotage me in every time I get back in the game.
Yeah.
So I went to a shamanic healer and like powerful shifts. I mean, a lot of deep old stuff was coming up and out. And I was so affected by how efficient the work was that I trained with him years ago. And it just opened up this whole Pandora's box of curiosity. It's like my soul just became so hungry for shamanism, emotional clearing, spiritual awakening, working with chakras, yoga, meditation, nutrition, cleansing, fasting. And I just woke up and I was so hungry. I started working with all kinds of different things. And by cleaning out my emotional body, by clearing up my physical body, then these healing gifts that were dormant, like clairvoyance, which is being able to see, see things, visuals, see into the future, see visions, clairaudience, to be able to hear messages, clear guidance, and clairsentience, this is being able to feel things, and claircognizance, which is being able to, just kind of this inner knowing things. All of those abilities, when I cleared out my emotional body and I started meditating and I was cleansing and detoxing and fasting and doing breath work, like my whole physical, energetic, emotional, and spiritual body shifted completely. And then all of those abilities that were latent before came back on. My hands, I could feel energy and electricity moving through my hands. I was seeing visions. I knew things. I could hear voices. And that was all naturally created. And it woke up all of these latent abilities within me. And then coupled with my passion for everything that I was learning about shamanism, and kind of also woke up some natural talents that I had, of skills that I already had, whether that's from past lives or whether that's just from divine, knowing. And it moved so quickly for me that I was just like, this is what I need to do in life.
Yeah.
This is no longer a passion just for me to heal. I have abilities, I have gifts, and I have passions, and all of the pieces started fitting together. And my ability to hone in on exactly what people were dealing with and have insights in a session for what tools to use. And I had a lot already in my inner awareness. And then I was learning, I just spent years and years of all kinds of learning different modalities that just made a nice, huge medicine bag of possibilities that I can tailor every time I meet with a client.
You remind me of people like, like Paul Chek, for example, who can, not diagnose, but have great insight into people's spiritual issues or physical issues, like from afar. Or there's another guy named, have you ever read the book Medical Medium?
Yeah.
Anthony William.
Yep.
Yeah. He, same thing. Like he can actually determine what might be going on with you from a health standpoint or a physical standpoint, literally by just being in the same room with you. And that might sound like a Snopes.com article for a lot of people listening in, but certain people, seem to possess, so to speak, these powers, whether it's the ability to be able to, like you mentioned, hear voices, or to sense certain things about people and what's going on with them without actually talking to them, or to be able to even heal people, both near and afar. So it's very interesting. It sounds to me like you were probably born with some of that potential, but it took actually completely clearing yourself out from these other like healing sessions that you did to really truly enable yourself to be able to do that. And I actually, a lot of people listening in, like they this blue sky stuff is interesting, but they kind of like to get down to brass tacks, like how this stuff actually works. And so that was what I was curious about, when somebody tells me, oh, you got to go see like this energy healer,
right.
It's kind of vague. It's
right?
like, what
Totally.
exactly is that?
And if somebody would have thought, told me, oh, you're going to be doing this, I would have laughed in their face, like, no, that's ridiculous. That's kooky stuff. I was so not interested or it wasn't on my radar at all. I'm sure that many of us are born with with different abilities to see, feel, or hear things. But a lot of that for a lot of us goes dormant because we start sedating with foods that actually clog our cognitive channels. Because you are such an advocate for mind and body fitness and keeping a pure channel. If you think about the minerals that the glands run on, those are required. A clear pineal and pituitary gland are required for higher consciousness. The diet I was eating, the beliefs I was believing, the thoughts I was feeling, the emotional density I was carrying was all things that were blocking what the sixth and seventh chakras that are connected with the pineal and the pituitary glands. And those are what's responsible for higher consciousness. So when I started clearing out the density and clearing out the physical toxicity, it was easy. These things come really naturally to me, and would be considered totally far out at another time in my life is just really natural for me now. I ask divine, creator, source, spirit, whatever you call that, to guide me in sessions to only know what I need to know, to feel what I need to feel, or to hear what I need to hear in a given session. So
the point about the pineal gland, though, is really interesting because that's where you produce a lot of your dimethyltryptamine, your DMT, the same stuff you might make, that Dr. Rick Strassman talks about in his book DMT, the spirit molecule. And it's not just for tripping, so to speak. It's actually for having, I think what you just described is like a clear consciousness, like the ability to be able to be conscious and to be able to be fully aware of your own body, and also in many cases the body or the energies of others. And it's really interesting. There's even like a Bible verse about this. I think it says something like the light of the body is the eye. And if your eye is complete or something like that, your whole body is full of light. And there's from the Romans to the Egyptians to the Babylonians to the Greeks,
Buddhists, right?
The Catholic Church has a bunch of pineal gland imagery in the Vatican Square. Yeah, it's very interesting. So before on other podcasts, I've talked about care of the pineal gland, ensuring that you're taking care of melatonin and serotonin levels, and neurotransmitter balance, adjustment of the air, the light, the water, the electricity that surrounds you. All of that's important for the pineal gland. But then spirituality and energy work is a big part of this too. And that's actually what I want to delve into with you. I walked into your house, when we first met there in Sedona, and we sat down and we talked for about an hour. And fill me in on what you do. Like when someone first walks in, what is it that you're doing? What are you looking for? What are you exploring?
This is where I'm just completely present with all of the information that you're giving me, that spirit is giving me from the moment you walk in. How you walk in, you walked in with your toe taped and limping. So I know I
remember that.
So immediately I know something's out of balance. I know something's injured. That isn't just your toe. So I'm trained to look for all of these different clues so that I can really dive into and open up the puzzle that is Ben, or the puzzle that is anyone walking through. What is their energy? Are they scattered? Are they late? What are they talking about? What is their body language? And so we spend an hour just kind of sharing this. What you came for was a Shamangelic Healing journey, which is kind of like my signature session. It's a 2-hour session, and usually the first part
is like the Big Mac and fries. That's what you go to McDonald's for. I got your signature dish.
Yeah, exactly. So because I can tailor that session. Whether somebody's walking in the door because they're grieving the loss of a loved one and they can't seem to, get over their grief, or they're really just coping with, the loss of a loved one, or they're going through a divorce or relationship challenges, or they're stuck. They've reached this plateau in their career or in their life, and they're stuck, and they're not happy. They're not going. just don't know what to do. Other people come here when they are, they're wanting to open into spirituality and consciousness. And a lot of people are motivated by pain, some core life shift that's happening in their life. They just got the diagnosis, or there's some loss or trauma. And so a lot of people are motivated by that. So the first part of the session is discovery. I'm discovering the puzzle. I'm looking for where the energy is leaking. I'm looking for what is out of balance. I'm looking for where people are giving their power away. I'm looking for the cast of characters in their life where they feel victim to. I'm looking at the story and where are the repeat patterns. So I'm listening. I'm scanning. I'm hearing. What you're not saying.
What are you hearing? Like when I'm sitting there, like when you say you're hearing, are you actually hearing voices?
I'm hearing.
Are you schizophrenic?
I do hear voices.
Okay. Tell me about it. Tell me about what you're hearing.
Well, it's more when somebody walks in, we sit down and I set a clear intention, first of all, because I'm opening the session and I'm also opening the doorways to higher consciousness so that I can hear, that I can understand what I can really help them with today. So when, if you're telling a part of your story, whether it's about a competition or whether it's about a family member or a relationship challenge or whatever it is, I'm listening deeply into the energy of what you're saying, how you're saying it, and why you're saying it. And then you may have noticed that I ask other questions. Now, tell me more about this, and what is this really going on? And is this happened before? So I'm looking to find where the source of it is. And this imbalance, is it a pattern? Does it happen over and over and over again? Okay. And so in that discovery, then I'm going to start going into reflection and into counseling and guidance and saying, hey, here's another way to look at this, or do you realize this is happening, or this is what happens when this imbalance stays out of balance, or this is really where the energy is leaking. What is this belief really about? Is it true? And, are you ready to release it? And so then I'm going to start perspective shift, whether it's about somebody that is dealing with a grief or a divorce or whatever their story is, then I'm going to start perspective change. I'm going to start looking at, tools to kind of help them shift their perspective and, give insight and guidance and some counseling right there on the spot. And then, and that's building trust and that it's a safe space.
I felt like when we sat and talked in your living room for an hour and you were taking notes as you interviewed me, we were kind of preparing for the next thing that was to come, which was when you brought me into the room next door, and you whipped me repeatedly with a cat of nine. No, I'm just kidding. You laid me down on a table. You laid me down on a table, and then you did this. It was just like this crazy, almost like ceremony. What was the second part?
Well, that's the journey. See, it's never the same, and this is where that ability to connect to divine guidance is super important in that place, because when I'm walking in that, into the healing room with you or any other client, it's a blank slate. I will have received insights and perspectives, and maybe a spirit guide or somebody comes in during that time that wants to come into the healing room. So in the healing room, I'm listening. I'm a conduit, and then we go into the journey. So maybe there's a guided visualization. There may be hands-on clearing. There may be a journey back into the past to kind of heal an old trauma. We might bring in a spiritual guide. There may be hands-on work in different chakra energy centers of the body or organs that are having a challenge. So that's where it's always a new creation, Ben. And I get to just be a conduit to allow a tailored journey based on what I've discovered in the first part of the session and what Spirit is telling me in the moment to say, use this guided visualization, bring in this guide, go back in time, put your hands on here, pick up the drum, use a sound tool. And it's never, ever the same. And I completely trust in the moment of allowing the divine to guide me as a conduit to create a tailored experience that will go deep and profound and shift the energy as whatever the client is ready for at that time.
Each and every episode of the Ben Greenfield Fitness Show is brought to you by The Playground, where I make new things to enhance beauty, nutraceuticals, nutrition formulations for ketosis and muscle building and pre-workouts and beyond. Everything that I design can be had over at Kion. And the URL for that is getkion.com. That's Kion. Check out when you're over there the Kion Skin Serum. I put this stuff on my face every single day. I spent 2 years hunting down the best natural, organic, essential oils on the face of the planet, put them all into one tiny, powerful bottle. A few drops of this on your face in the morning, or your hair if you want some great-looking, shiny, glowing hair. Does amazing things for your skin. It's like food for your skin. It actually builds new collagen and elastin. All the research is over there on the site, along with all the ingredients. It's extremely hypoallergenic. Everybody does great with this stuff on their face. Everybody I've given a bottle to, everybody who has bought a bottle swears by this stuff, and you need to add it to your beauty protocol. It's called Kion Serum, our anti-aging serum for skin so beautiful. You get it at getkion.com, getkion.com. This podcast is also brought to you by Birdwell Beach Breeches. Gotta be careful how I say that one. I have a pair of these breeches. They're actually shorts, in case you're wondering what breeches actually are. My wife digs them because I look like one of these cool old school beach surfer dudes, and they actually are one of California's original surf shops and board short manufacturers. Back in the 60s, a surf mom named Carrie Birdwell Mann turned her whole California home into a sewing room and a store, and she launched this company, Birdwell, and also created one of California's first surf shops. And these Birdwell breeches that they make last for decades. They were built for the rigorous life of a surfer or a lifeguard or a frequent beachgoer, but they look good on anybody. They use this unbreakable fabric called surf nil fabric. It's the toughest in the business. It's almost unbreakable 2-ply nylon fabric that was originally inspired by boat sails anchored over at California's Newport Beach. They can go through rock scrapes and reef slashes and tons of wear and just about anything else. Any other horrible thing you want to do to these shorts, you can do to them because they're just completely indestructible. You get 10% off your first pair of Birdwell Beach breeches with a lifetime guarantee, lifetime, and free shipping over $99. Go to birdwell.com. That's bird, W-E-L-L, birdwell.com, and use discount code BEN at the checkout to get that 10% off, the lifetime guarantee, the free shipping. Enjoy your new breeches, baby. Give me an example, really a specific example. You could use me or, anyone else. You'd obviously keep them anonymous. Or you could name them and get someone really pissed off. But give me an example of what you mean, in terms of taking someone deep into a memory or something like that. Are you just asking them questions, or are you playing certain music or sounds or smells that induce that, or give me a specific example?
Yeah. All of that. My healing room has gong, crystal bowls. There's all kinds of sound tools. There's crystals. There's you're laying on an amethyst crystal biomat. Also, there's essential oils and tuning forks and all kinds of different things in there. And so let's just say somebody comes in and they have a trauma. Just a client last week, she had a trauma at around 13. And so, okay, I'm going to take her back in time then. If that's what I think, and that's what the divine says is the best pathway to go. Okay, all right. I'm going to, kind of regress back to that time before that kind of 12, 13, and kind of get with the wisdom of her soul before the trauma happened. Oh, wow, this is what I used to be like. This is, and there's wisdom, our 12-year-old, our 6-year-old, our 2-year-old, our inner child, we have it together before it starts getting dismantled. We know things as kids. Then we start getting socially programmed. Then we start getting oppressed. Then we start getting, distorted. and we start bartering what we know for the programs that we're given just to kind of fit in. And so an example might be going back in time to the 6-year-old or the 8-year-old that was happy before this trauma happened, and what wisdom do they have? And then we might go forward then to the 12 or 13-year-old at the time of the trauma and bring in the healing energy, the wisdom, the support, the safety that they actually needed that they didn't get at that time, so that they can actually hold a space together with me and whatever other spiritual guidance I bring in at the time. Maybe a grandmother wants to come in. Maybe the villain comes in and we actually do some healing work with the actual person that they experienced the trauma with, so that we can get to know their inner child or their, who they are at a deeper soul level when they're not playing the victim. Who the person that is playing the villain in their story, to get to know them at a deeper level when they're not playing the villain. So, oh gosh, he's just a troubled little boy too. Wow. Let's go back into his life. And so the journey might take us back in time to that trauma and to give that person the support that they didn't have, or a different perspective to kind of heal and release, to open their heart, to forgive, to say, screw you, or no, it's not okay, so that their voice could be expressed at a time maybe that at 8 or 6 or 12 or 15, they didn't have the ability to say no or express what they needed to. They can do that now and reclaim their power and, create clearer boundaries and to learn to receive. What did I learn from this? What is the most powerful gift that I'm taking away? That my voice matters.
Yeah, I remember for me, like you brought me into this. I was really kind of like in this half awake, half asleep state. Once I kind of got settled down, I think you were playing some musical instruments. There were some smells. I think you had some sound frequencies going as well, and I began to. I was visualizing my children and my wife coming up to me and saying certain things that were actually very meaningful. I mean, if people want to go watch the Facebook video that I'll put over at bengreenfieldfitness.com/Anahata, my son Taryn said to me that I needed to remember to just have fun in life. Like my son River told me that the very best thing is love. And my wife Jessa appeared and she told me to be present. And so it was really interesting. Like for me, it was a big connection to my family and certain members of my family saying things. And there was like this old tree that you had me visualize, and the old tree was encouraging me to have like a deeper connection with the earth and to basically do what I did right after, which was just like, get outside, be barefoot, have a deeper connection with nature, and a lot of those things that I think are very Sedona-esque. So that was really interesting. And then then I rushed out full of energy and I felt amazing. But we didn't even do like some of the other things that you do that I'm aware of that I wanted to make sure we had time to ask you about. Like your Shamangelic Healing session, it was really interesting, and I highly encourage. And by the way, I don't have a financial affiliation with Anahata or anything like that. I just think this is super interesting stuff that she does. Plus, everybody's got to go to Sedona and have like a superfood chocolate smoothie, anyways.
Definitely.
So, breathwork. I've done holotropic breathwork before. It's the highest I've ever gotten without the use of any type of pharmaceutical or drug. I didn't do holotropic breathwork with you, but you do like special forms of breathwork. Talk to me a little bit about the breathwork that you do and what's happening kind of like physiologically when one enters into one of these altered states through breathwork.
Okay, so when deep breathing occurs, we're hyperoxygenating the body, and we're also clearing what we were talking about earlier. Deep breathing exercises are one of the most powerful and efficient and free ways to clear the brain of toxins. But it also floods the pineal and the pituitary glands with oxygen, blood flow, and it is actually opening up those higher states of awareness. So we're kind of like clearing the mind. But when the breath goes down and it's directed into the emotional body and the energetic body, I explain it like using a broom to kind of sweep out the basement of stuff that we just don't want to deal with. Those traumas, insecurities, pains, wounds that we kind of just stuff over in the corner that over life just get heavier and heavier. Breathwork is a powerful way to kind of clean the basement out of those kind of dense emotions that are blocking your higher states of awareness, your productivity, your success, your, depth of to be vulnerable in relationships, all of that, because we have all of those emotional traumas and limiting beliefs kind of holding in our lower energy centers of our body. And so what I do, and actually what I teach, is a version what I call Shamangelic breathwork, because we're going to use the breath to kind of go in along with the breathing and powerful music. I'm working hands-on with people's body to help them move the energy deeper. A question, I might just place a question right in your ear, or put my hands on certain parts of the body to kind of move the energy, or to clear something out, or open the heart. There may be some guided visualizations or questions that just kind of get you to go deeper. What are you afraid of? What's holding you back? And kind of those deeper questions of who's in your way, what's in your way, and bringing
how
up.
long does it take to get into like that altered state where you're receptive to that type of thing through breath work?
That really is a very personal thing, because some people can drop in a lot faster than others, and that's very personal. And it also depends on how deeply you're breathing. And some people can drop in very quickly, and sometimes it takes people a little bit longer to really go for it and trust the process. And I actually teach. I have a whole training course of how to train other people to facilitate breath work. But one of my favorite tools, because it can so quickly. Usually I do a whole session that's like a 2-hour experience where we talk about the whole process, get people ready, explain everything, have a full hour of breathing that's kind of deeper, and then it's also more expansive and spiritual and awakening and softer. It kind of goes through ebbs and flows and ups and downs, allows emotion to move and consciousness to come in, and it's so powerful, and it's one of my favorite things. And you can do that with an individual or couples or a whole group. In fact, I'm headed to Anahata, Aubrey's place, to do breathwork facilitation for all of his yoga studios out there in Anahata, in Austin, Texas, at Black Swan Yoga.
Oh, cool.
And so I lead big ceremonies for this as well. And you absolutely can reach altered states of consciousness. Sometimes it's more physical, because that's what needs to happen, is clearing out physical density in the body. Sometimes it's emotional, where rage, anger, crying, sadness, grief, or joy, or elation.
I cried a lot. Like for me, because it was all choreographed music. It was about 90 minutes long. This was at US CrossFit in Encinitas, California, actually, where I did this one after an event called Kokoro, which is it's like Navy SEAL Hell Week for civilians. So I was probably kind of open spiritually. Anyways, all my chakras were wide open and bleeding by that time, baby. And
right, exactly.
And I went through this session, and literally a total out of body experience. So it was a lot of like almost like Wim Hof style hyperventilation, like.
Yeah,
and then,
yeah.
You do that for a long time, like 4 or 5 minutes, and then you'd breathe everything out, hold your breath for as long as you can, take a deep breath in, and you'd go into like box breathing for another 2 minutes. And you'd cycle back and forth like that for like a half hour, right? And then you just lay there in a trance-like state, and the whole time the music is pounding, and you're also feeling the energy from all the other people in the room, which seems to have a profound effect. Because I've tried this by myself, and it's way different with other people in the room. And
because somebody else that is maybe reliving a trauma and just like, no, stop, it's not okay, or somebody who's screaming or crying kind of opens up people's inhibitions to say, well, gosh, it's okay for me to express too, because there's such intense programming. Don't feel, don't cry, don't express, and certainly don't do that in front of anybody else. And so I just did this with 6 men last week, and it was so powerful. These are all like bodybuilder, construction, running construction companies, and these are like buff kind of, tough guys that are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, and they're pretty intense programming not to feel, and every single one of them, emotional meltdowns, totally transparent and authentic, and they were able to really release things that had happened from childhood that they'd never told anybody ever. and they're finally free of that in one session. And that they were also able to be that vulnerable. And so it's a powerful process, and it's quite efficient because you can move density out, and within the same session, okay, if you let go of that trauma, what are you putting in its place? Bring in more joy, bring in more bliss, bring in more confidence, put in new beliefs about who you are and the value of your, voice and your potential. So I love that as a process. I do that individually.
And people can show up with you either individually or as a group and go through what that actually is, like holotropic breathwork. Because I know there's actually apps. There's like holotropic breathwork apps and websites, but from what I understand, I've actually never tried any of the apps. It seems a little bit gimmicky versus the actual experience. But if people are listening in, if you're listening and you've tried one of these holotropic breathwork apps or have some other way to do it, feel free to leave a comment and fill us all in. But and I didn't do the breathwork with you, Anahata, but I find it fascinating. When I did it in Encinitas, it's super powerful for anybody listening.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why Aubrey turned you on to me, is because that's one of the things he first experienced, is a couple Shamangelic healing journeys and then a couple breathwork sessions, and it just knocked his socks off and just cracked him wide open. The difference between an app and being in person and Shamangelic breathwork, what I do is I'm actually diving into your emotional and energetic body with you. I'm not just turning on the music and shaking a rattle. This is like focused on you and whoever else is in the room with us to kind of help navigate those deeper places of your psyche that you can't get to otherwise. And so having it facilitated allows you to go deeper, and journeying does happen. Sometimes, like I say, sometimes it's physical, sometimes it's emotional, and other times it's an out-of-body experience. And it isn't so completely safe to not, if you are going into interdimensional travel, to not have a steward being able to bring you back.
Yeah, you don't want to get stuck out in the inner dimensions. Yeah, floating around for the rest of all time. Hey, what other modalities do you do? Like, we talked about breath work and some of the sound healing, but are there any other kind of like unique things that you do in terms of like healing modalities or energy modalities, as far as what's in your bag of tricks over there?
Yeah, so many things. So I work with people primarily on relationships as well. There's a whole, whether it's, hey, I want to attract my soulmate, or I want to be better in my relationships, or I want to be a better parent, or I want to be a better spouse. So I work with individuals that are wanting to up their relationship game, be better with my employees. So relationship tools, and also within couples, to help them navigate the ups and downs and the ins and outs to have a healthier relationship, and especially those that are also parents, so that they're able to navigate their children through the different stages of, an 8-year-old is different than a 16-year-old, which is different than a 26-year-old. And so since I've been through that process, as we share twins, you have twins and I have twins.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so that's another thing that we share in common. And having navigated those changes in a really beautiful way with my kids, so I work a lot with family dynamics and couples. One of my core things is working with people going through life shifts. So a big life shift might be, wow, I got the diagnosis, I'm going through, or someone in my family is going through a big diagnosis, whether that's cancer or some other kind of disease, how to navigate that. I work with people on expanding their spiritual practices and spiritual awakening. So I have a whole deep set of meditation practices and sessions that I help people to be able to access those higher states of awareness and deepen their meditation practice. Getting people out on the land. I do shamanic wisdom teachings and shamanic wisdom walks and like an ancient medicine wheel ceremony. So I have a background in shamanic wisdom and shamanic training. And so
what's a wisdom walk?
A wisdom walk is connecting with the wisdom teachers in nature. So that's the elements: water, air, earth, and fire. That's talking to the mountain. That is getting with a tree. That is paying attention to what animal spirits are crossing your path to determine what message are they having when a blue jay crosses your path, or when a crow comes, or a snake, or coyote, what are the animal spirit kind of wisdom teachings, and kind of really getting with the nature wisdom teachers that the Native Americans would call their relations. So really connecting with the elements, and also the different relations, trees, flowers, plants, mountains, bodies of water, for their wisdom as well, and teaching people how to access that when they're in nature.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's like going to
Very
church,
cool.
but through the Native American with a Native American lens, because you can get a sermon from a mountain. You can absolutely get a very specific message from a
I like to
tree.
combine them. Like I sometimes will, like, I'm all about fellowshipping with other people and having a room full of spiritual energy and what happens at church. But I've also, a lot of times when we're traveling, I've taken the kids and my wife on like a hike, and we will find like a nice spot up in the mountains. Like we did this last time we were in Boise, we hiked up the mountain, and we'll have like a little like church service, like right there, like under a rock or sitting cross like on top of a mountain. And it's amazing. It's a whole different energy. So
it's a wonderful place to send prayers or to ask for healing. Or to get guidance,
That's why, the whole concept, like I get that you can kind of like worship and experience spiritual energy anywhere, but like how many churches are in like shopping malls and freaking like strip malls? And like the church I go to in Spokane, it's in a strip mall, but like I would love to see more. Like I think that's the one thing that like Catholicism has nailed, is like they've built these huge freaking cathedrals with amazing energy, right? Or you go outside in more of like a Native American format and you worship in nature. And like to me, the environment is huge when it comes to a true spiritual connection, versus being sandwiched in between a McDonald's and a Walgreens. So yeah.
Yeah. So that's just leveraging, and it can go in complete integration with other people's spiritual beliefs, whatever denomination or whatever spiritual belief you have. There's certainly space to have that support and work in conjunction with whatever your current spiritual beliefs are.
Yeah,
absolutely.
A lot of people are interested in plant medicine and ayahuasca and DMT, but they don't know where to start. They don't have someone to like walk them through that type of process. I don't even know if I can legally ask you this question, but do you do those type of things as well? Are you like a plant medicine person?
There's all kinds of different types of shamanic healers, and a medicine man or a plant medicine man it is actually called an ayahuasquero if they are facilitating plant, specifically ayahuasca.
You say ayahuasquero, I say plant medicine person, because I didn't know that word. Okay, ayahuasquero. Yes. Thank you for expanding my vernacular.
That's specifically in Peru, and I've studied and trained in Peru and in Mexico and North America and Eastern Asia, all over the place. But there are lots of different types of shamans, and one is the kind of more the shamanic healer that's kind of doing soul retrieval and emotional clearing, and the ceremonialist, and that's kind of more my ray and my calling. There's a whole separate calling that is specifically, and breathwork, because that is like a journeying type of experience, but non-medicine based, just breath based. And it is a whole separate calling and a whole separate study to really deeply understand each of these medicine teachers, because in shamanism, something is only a medicine. You hear this term all the time, medicine. And in shamanism, a medicine is only something that leaves you more whole. And if it's not in the right dose, if it's not the right time, if it's not for the right ailment, if you're going for the wrong reason, or it's not held in the right container, then it will become a poison, even if it has medicinal qualities. Just like wine may have medicinal qualities if it's taken at the right time, at the right dose, for the right reason. Same with, ice cream might be, or spirulina, anything, if it is not taken in the right dose at the right time for the right reason, for the right ailment.
Yeah, unless it's spirulina on ice cream, in which case
there you have it.
All the time. I did
threshold for that.
Yeah, my last experience with ayahuasca and DMT, was a tea ceremony leading up to a DMT inhalation, and multiple DMT inhalations, and It was wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful. I had no purging. I had no vomiting. It was just all a completely magical experience where I saw fractal light and had a very, very near experience with God, and it was amazing. And for me, what's funny is, for me, because I know people who do like 40, 50 trips, like they're for me, after that particular journey, I finished that one, and basically I was good. Like, I have zero desire now, zero desire. Like,
Please.
I'm good. Like, I've seen God, gotten what I want to, and maybe someday it'll come back on my heart to use that medicine to get a more extreme release of DMT. But I almost feel like it got me so in touch with that pineal gland that we were talking about, that I don't need plant. Like I now see those fractal lights wherever I'm at. Like, it's in me now. It's really interesting.
Right. And so this is really powerful, because this is something that can, if it's used properly, if it's the right time, like, you already know it's not the time anymore. Like, I got this, I'm done for now. And if you were to go back to it because everybody else is going back to it,
right,
and you've already gotten the instruction, I don't need this, it will become a poison for you.
Yep.
So this is what I recommend with people, because I'll tell you, Ben, I see the light side and the dark side of plant medicines, because I have a lot of people that come here that don't know where else to go, that have overdone it inappropriately. They've been in the wrong space. They took it for the wrong reason. They got the wrong dose. The container wasn't held. And maybe the substance wasn't totally clean, or their energy body and emotional body, their matrix, if you will, was not primed or ready for that experience. And so it actually fries people's circuits. And so actually, I have so many people a year, probably 50 a year, that are coming to me that are messed up from stuff. They haven't slept in 2 weeks. They are having psychic kind of fissures. They're kind of in a paranoia state. They can go into all kinds of different kind of psychic abnormalities where they're seeing visions that aren't there, and they're in dream time. They're having some dark stuff happen, and they've opened up portals. They've opened up portals and kind of fried their circuits a bit there.
Exactly. Yeah, so, I've always thought it was dangerous to just like have a shaman over to your buddy's condo, right? To do, it's just like that. Yeah, right. I don't like that. It doesn't seem right to me. Like,
in between the Walgreens and the Catholic Church.
For me, for me, I was like fasting the whole day prior, and there's a whole ceremony leading up. It was extremely, like, we took it very seriously.
Sacred,
and it was sacred. So,
so let me ask just a couple of things on this, just because I want to be a voice for people to be aware when they're navigating whether or not they should do a plant medicine ceremony. And so here's a couple questions. One, are you personally drawn to it? Just like you said, hey, now I'm not drawn to it. I was drawn to it before, and now I'm not drawn to it. And so this isn't about, oh, my friend, my neighbor, my boyfriend, my girlfriend, whoever, are they drawn to it? First question, am I actually drawn to this medicine? Not curious, but am I drawn? Second, is it the right time? Because sometimes you may be drawn to the medicine, but this weekend, it doesn't feel like it's the right time. Second, third, is it the right facilitator? Because there's lots of people pouring and creating all kinds of different medicines that are not ayahuasqueros, that are not trained. It's getting shipped over here. They don't even know what's in the jug. And they're disseminating it as if they're actually, brewing it. And so if they're not actually brewing it, if they're not really trained in understanding how to create that substance and understanding it enough to know what the impact is on somebody else, a real trained ayahuasquero does the brew. They also hold the space, because not everybody that pours medicine knows how to hold a container to keep dark energies out and to keep psychic energies clear. Like, that's a whole nother training. And then also to be able to interpret the visions that happened afterwards. So what I have found a lot of times is that people are getting way overdosed because the person wasn't really being mindful and scanning each person as they come in. Because when I was in Peru taking medicine for my first time, and many, many years ago, And I feel very complete at this point too. But the ayahuasca scans people. No, you don't need it today. It's not up to the individual to decide. And a drug dealer in shaman's clothes with a rattle will not ask you. They'll just take your money. And so is it the right person? Like, do you deeply trust them with your psychic and like mental safety? Is it the right container? Because a lot of times the container isn't really safe or clear. So those are all questions that if you're not getting a yes all the way across, then absolutely no. You might be called, but it might not be a clear container or the right facilitator. And most of the people that land in my healing practice messed up have not been that discerning about those 5 questions that I just gave you.
Okay, so for review, one more time, the 5 questions.
Are you called?
Are you called?
Is it the right time? Is it the right facilitator? Definitely do your research on people, because there's some charlatans out there for sure that are taking advantage of people.
Oh, yeah.
And is it the right location? Oh, and also, is it the right group of people? Because you're going to be exposed to all of their energy when you're in that room, journeying with them.
Yeah.
So I've had people have had some not so excellent experiences, like really, really intense traumas, and things that they did not recover from. So I take it pretty seriously. It is the perfect thing at the right time. And then you just need to know when to step back, or if it's not your thing, then it's not your thing. No matter how much it's great for everybody else, it's only a medicine if it leaves you more whole.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Well, you do retreats there in Sedona, and you also have special resources on your website. You had even mentioned giving something to the folks who were listening in before we started recording. You said you had something you wanted to give away to them. Do you want to fill us in now, or just send me the info after? I can put it in the show notes, or how do you want to give people some goodies here?
Okay, cool. Well, first of all, I'm here. Check out the website, shamangelichealing.com. I'm here based in Sedona, and I do individual sessions and multiple day sessions, like a private retreat for people that want to go deeper. There's also group retreats that are happening. There's a women's empowerment retreat, a shamanic soul retreat, and I also teach courses on empowerment and awakening, where you can learn a lot of this stuff in group settings. And also those that are interested in the healing arts, I run a whole Shamangelic Healing school. And then, yes, I will put a promo code for some free gifts. I'll give you a link to put on your page there, so that people can land and get a free gift, and also discount to some online courses or an upcoming event for sure, so that people that are drawn here, I'll give a coupon code for a breathwork session, a discount off of that if people are really drawn to experiencing that.
So people can go experience the same crazy energy in Sedona that I experienced. I'm going to come back at some point. I believe in the summer. I plan on coming back to Sedona myself, so I'll definitely connect with you when I'm there, unless I happen to see you in Austin at the Anahata facilities at some point, because I really dig all the folks down there and make it down there every once in a while. So in the meantime, though, what I'm going to do is put your kind offer, along with everything else that we just talked about, over in the show notes, along with the Facebook video I shot right after I met with Anahata the last time I was down there. That's all going to be over at bengreenfieldfitness.com/Anahata, just like it sounds, like Anahata. Anahata, thanks so much for coming on the show and sharing all this stuff with us. You're a magical, insightful, very, very cool person. You were able to open up some pretty intense insights for me personally. So I thought exposing you to my listeners would be a very good thing, and I hope some folks look you up.
Thank you. And I just want to thank you, Ben, for everything that you're doing to really be a maverick, just going after all of these modalities and tools, leading edge fitness, mentally, emotionally, and physically. And so thank you for being such a leader in this industry, and continuing to bring best practices and tools to your audience. And I know that if people have listened all the way to here, that there's something powerful here in what we've already shared.
They made it this far into the woo-woo. It must be powerful.
Yeah. There's something talking to your soul, then I look forward to meeting, those that are really called to go deeper. So thank you, Ben, and blessings to you and your family and the boys. And may you have an amazing summer. We'll see you here in Sedona, definitely.
Awesome. Well, folks, there's your interview with Shamangelic Healer Anahata Ananda. Again, all the show notes are at bengreenfieldfitness.com/Anahata. Have an amazing week.
You've been listening to the Ben Greenfield Fitness Podcast. Go to bengreenfieldfitness.com for even more cutting-edge fitness and performance advice.